I will call the City of Watertown Public Works Commission meeting for March 11th to order at 5:32 p.m. And note that we have a quorum. Our first item of business is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Is there anyone present? Anyone online? Seeing none, I'll move on to item 3 on our agenda, which is review and approve minutes. The public work minutes from February 25th of 2025. Motion? I would please.
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll go down to our business item. We're skipping item A for a minute. We're gonna go to item B. Review and take action, extend technical services agreement with Strand Associates, task order 20-05.
Okay, this task order goes back some years, and we've been using that for projects that we issue to Strand, such as the current ones in progress, the elevated tank rehab, and our that West Side Interceptor project and the Alderman Lift Station. So they all refer back to this general agreement, and the time has expired. So this is before you tonight to make an extension as noted, to the agreement from July 5th, 2025 to July 2nd, 2030. That way we'll be able to continue to reference this agreement as projects come forward. Those projects that come forward go to the commission for approval as a separate task order, but they all do refer back to this one. And this would need a resolution. And I had an example in there. That was coming from City Attorney Cheesebro. Had mentioned this needs passage by this commission and then a resolution by Common Council.
What was the cost for the extension, Pete?
There's no cost to do the extension. It's just the agreement that the task orders, individual task orders refer to this general service agreement. So to do this extension, there's no cost itself for the extension.
There's no budget limitation or anything.
Well, the budget includes the individual task orders, such as the elevated tank rehab. So that task order refers to this agreement in technical legal terms. So to extend this contract, this agreement doesn't have a cost to it. We've already expended the funds for the individual task orders that are referring to this.
Expiration to July 2nd, 2030. You're extending it to 2030?
Yes.
Okay. I will make a motion to extend the technical service agreement with Strand Task Associates, task order 20-05, from July 5th, 2025 to July 2nd, 2030.
Indeed.
July 2nd, 2030.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there support? Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Just on a procedural basis, is this something that, even though there were no changes within the extensive text of the agreement, is this something that is a common approach for existing agreements, is to extend them as opposed to simply recreating them and making them specifically tied to the resolution that's going up, other than what was previously in existence? I'm just saying, it would seem to me that for a 5-year agreement, it would be, even if it was substantially identical, doing a new agreement would normally be the way we proceed.
With where he was Strand and Associates, they prefer and like to do individual projects by task order, which is what we do, all of these task orders refer to this agreement. So we could move forward into each task order, which we have been, includes a reference to this agreement. Or we could start all over again. We do need to extend this agreement because our current task orders do refer to it. One, so those, we would have to step backwards and redo those task order projects and include the new terms of agreement. Basically, that's what we're trying to do here. If we take, not to jump ahead on the agenda, the next one is a separate task order referring to this agreement also. That particular task order has expired. It's called an on general demand. So by having this in place for the next 5 years allows us to continue to work as an needed basis for, with Strand. We did reach out several times on a one-off for them to provide a capacity analysis of a sewer system, to update our water model. They issue a task order. If it's less than 10,000, we move forward with it after discussion. If it's more, we come to the commission. So by having this agreement in place, we're able to do the one-offs a little bit more fluently and efficiently, but we don't have to do it that way.
No, I definitely agree. You want to have a base agreement to refer to as each new task arises. Let me just ask this. In 2030, would there be an anticipated extension of the previous agreement for X number of additional years?
I suppose at that time we could start all over again with a new one. This did kind of get reviewed by the attorney and there was nothing legally wrong with it. It was just the terms to extend. So there is, we could do it any way you want. Tonight before you is this request, so that we can continue on the projects that we've already started. The Alderman lift station could be several years before we're finished with it. That's possible. It's a big project, it's expensive, and we're trying to align it with other capital improvements in the area. That's just an example. So we're in 25, 26, 27, 28. We're already 3 years maybe. I think we're talking about Hart Street tonight on a different topic.
How long have you had them under contract?
Well, that would go back to the beginning of this 2005 agreement. And the first projects was when the DNR was forcing our hand on the corrosion control
So
study.
did we create this blanket contract with Strand in 2005? Is that what I'm hearing?
2020, I believe it was, not 2005.
So 2020 is
2020.
when we entered into,
When we first had this agreement in place and we started to do one-offs with them. Some of them led into much bigger projects. This is the corrosion control plan and modifications, and subsequently the turning off of the sodium hydroxide and the water system and the
so
treatment.
what I'm hearing you say is that you have a blanket agreement with Strand. That's this contract that we're talking about right now that sets the terms and conditions for the contractual work that they will do for us. Each time you have a task request, you ask them to give you a price, and that price is then applied to this contract.
The price is associated with the work we're asking for.
Yeah, exactly. For
Okay,
that specific
and
project.
that task order refers back to this general service agreement.
And if it's under $10,000, it doesn't come to the commission. If it's over $10,000, it does.
It's typically what we've been doing, yes. Yeah, following the purchasing policy.
Good there, Fred. Give you enough
I'm okay
information.
with this extension. I see what's being done, and it would involve quite a bit of work. And with minimal issues that have been changed, I can understand this. So I would just think that for something of 5 years duration, the next time it comes around, I think we should probably do a new agreement.
Well,
Fair enough.
I'd actually ask the question, who else can do this?
Well, it's not binding us to any particular
it.
work. Actually, having the agreement in place doesn't commit us to any contractual work.
Yeah, but in fairness, it makes it real simple for you.
Well,
It's
it
a whole lot
depends.
easier to deal
Um,
with a firm if you already have a base agreement.
Not necessarily.
I mean,
This
no,
commission picked Strand over Applied, sitting right here for the Alderman lift station project, or that, I'm sorry, on the West Side Interceptor. So we still bring forward more than one engineering firm's proposal for a particular project.
So if that's true, then I got to ask a simple question. I'm not trying to be belligerent, right? You have a 5-year contract that you want to extend with Strand. Did you ask anybody else to give you a 5-year proposal for a
This-
contract?
To one correction, this is not a contract extension. This is an agreement. There's different task order contracts tied to this agreement.
Call
So-
it whatever you want to call it. Did you ask anybody else if they'd be interested in an agreement like this?
The other firms that I deal with don't have a similar setup of a task order issuance that refers to an agreement. So, no. We did the facilities plan and showed Applied Technologies. They have a different approach as an engineering firm. If you don't, so no. If we want me to reach out to other firms to put a general blanket agreement in place where we can do the similar thing, I can do that, but not all firms go that route and do a task order assignment for work.
Okay. Any other questions?
As we move forward under this extended 5-year agreement, each specific task, which will have its own basis for moving forward within a particular budget or authorization for the funding, those would still, if more than $10,000, would go to the council for approval in each and every case.
Yes.
The only remaining question I have is, what ensures for the public that there is a competitive presence in each of those agreements to move forward with the individual task?
Engineering services are not something we have to publicly bid. So it would depend on the project and the price of the project. So the public has an assurance that based on the project price exceeding 25,000, that it comes to this commission and it has to come forward after being bid or posted or solicited in a public manner, so that we're not just picking one over the other. I don't know, Andrew, want to jump in here?
Thanks for getting up.
Got the lights on there.
We still follow the purchasing policy when we do solicit and select firms. We'll solicit quotes or seek proposals. We do follow the purchasing policy. They're doing requests for proposals, or if there is a long-standing history with the firm, one that is embedded in a project, we might sole source it, but we follow the purchasing policy and have to justify whenever we do those things.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion with support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, let's go on to item C, review and take action, extend on-call general water engineering support services task order 21-01.
Thank you. Excuse me, 2101 is the on-call general demand. So we're currently using that, and it is what it says. It's on-call as needed. It's not a particular one in general, except we are and have been following this one for the private lead service replacement project, where we're using Strand intermittently through the process. So we're doing a lot in-house for this one. And they're currently ready with a project to bid. This has gone through this commission, and we talked about our census tracts. Strand was here. So this task order extension, it needs an extension on the timeline as well to put us through the end of our private lead service project, which we believe will be finished in 2027. So we're hoping to bid very soon. And this year start the 3-year project to remove all the remaining lead services, as you know. So we're asking for this on-call general demand, the task order 2101, to extend to December 31st, 2027, so that we can continue to use them to complete this project that they started with us. Again, this one would refer to the agreement that was just approved, this separate task order.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Hey, Pete,
Yes,
is there a timeline when that has to be done?
I'm sorry.
Is there a timeline for the lead water to be done totally?
Yeah, DNR imposed a mandatory removal of 10 years. We're going to be done before that because we started a little bit sooner. Then they changed the lead and copper rule, which now coming forward will be a timeline of the DNR is going to issue a 10-year maximum. We're looking to be done in 2027, 3 years ahead of our goal that we set in 2020 when we started.
Thank you for your diligence and
You bet.
foresight.
Well, thank everybody here because this has gone through this commission and we've been moving this forward as a team here. The whole city has been involved with this, so it's getting much closer every day. And we'll be very happy when that's done.
It's your pleasure, gentlemen.
I'll go. Motion to extend the on-call general water engineering support task order 21-01. Expiration date from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2027.
I'll second.
Any other comments or questions on this one? Obviously, we're extending this to Strand Associates, right?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, item D, review and take possible action, wastewater facilities plan, project improvement plan for UV systems upgrades and other immediate needs.
Okay, I hope you all had time to read the emails that I included. We were kind of caught by surprise by the DNR in their interpretation of the code related to accepting our facilities plan. We did use population projections that were readily available to us in our report that was submitted to the DNR. The DNR then, or the Department of Administration, issued new population projections of January 2nd of this year after the submittal of our report. We also used our comprehensive plan in our projections. Because the new population projections came out, the Department of Natural Resources has basically rejected accepting our facilities plan, which I have Katie here tonight to talk a little bit more about what does that mean and why are they doing this? I did meet with City Attorney Cheesebro and I thought he was going to be here or have prepared an opinion. When we talked, he said that they had some concerns we did with the DNR's interpretation of the code. The fact that our plan was submitted and accepted using what was available, and then them turning around and issuing an opinion that we're gonna have to redo this whole plan. The UV system has been planned as a project with Applied to get this off the ground now so that we can bid it, hire a contractor, and start the equipment purchasing because there's a lead time on the equipment and we have to disinfect from May 1st through the end of October, end of September. So we have a short window of opportunity for the contractor to come in, demo the old system and put in the new system and do startup and troubleshooting before we have to go back online and disinfect on May 1st. So we put a lot of time and effort into planning this project. But DNR needs to approve the facilities plan because they won't issue an approval, plan approval for the UV system without that. So if there's any questions right now, you can ask them, or we can have Katie talk a little bit more and then we can have some discussion after that. Does that sound okay?
Yes. But they basically rejected the plan because of the population count. They think our population is higher than what we do. Lower than we do.
Projection.
They, so on page 118 of your agenda, there's a graph that. Okay. There was a graph that the DNR reviewer put together. So the lines going up were what we used in the facility plan because that's what was available when we put the plan together. The line going down is the most recent DOA population projections. There's a significant difference for like the 2047 date, which is what we are designing for. We were planning for about 27,000. DOA is saying it's going to be around 18,000. So it's quite a discrepancy. So as an engineer and a wastewater engineer, there are, I guess, two paths that the city can take, and they're not opposed to each other. You can do them both. One is that you can actually, as a city, challenge the DOA's population numbers. If you don't think they're correct and you want to challenge them because you think it's an advantage, that's one path you can take. The other path is what I would call regulatory certainty, which is that we submitted this plan at a certain date. They received the plan by a certain date. And then 5 days later, new information came out and they said, no, you have to redo everything. And that is where I think your city attorney's interpretation would come and be valuable is the state allowed to make you redo the plan based on new information that came out after it was already submitted? Or should they really be like, well, you got it in by the deadline?
I believe this is not the first time that facility plan has been submitted to the DNR and populations have changed after said plan. In the past, it was not necessarily as much of a sticking point as it appears to be right now.
Right, because the facility plan is a plan. It is a projection at a point in time. We do our best, but things change over the 20-year period. And typically what we would recommend is that, as the city's doing the projects that we recommend, because we have a phased approach in our facility plan, the 0 to 3 years, 0 to 5, 5 to 10. Our recommendation would be that you would evaluate your flows and loadings as you're doing these improvements and just take that new information into account. That you would get new data and use it to go ahead with your improvements. We have been talking to the DNR reviewer and the DNR, trying to work through this issue because it's affecting several of our projects. And I floated this out to him that, this can always be gone through when you're actually doing the work and replacing the equipment. He did not seem very receptive to that and basically came back to, well, first first step is to relook at the population projections. And that's what we've gotten out of him in this email that's attached to your agenda.
Right, and I had provided some information from Mason he gave to me with the school district did a study on population and the size of the school. And, you know, not everything that we have in the pipeline is, you know, is available for everyone to know about, but there's a considerable amount of building prospects in the city of Watertown to show the population decreasing. You know, I think everyone in this room might disagree with, including what we're seeing on, you know, with our own departments and the things that we're doing to prepare for, and to accommodate development. That West Side Interceptor project's one big example, of opening up that side of the city for development, and assisting with the sanitary sewer over there. So there's just, some concern about this holding up the project, that in the end, the plan that was put forward, we're not changing the design of the plant. It's getting re-rated because it's shown that we can handle more loading. The flow design's the same. We're not doing bricks and mortar. We're replacing equipment that's aged out and has been discontinued by manufacturers such as the UV system. Redoing this whole plan doesn't change any of our immediate needs, midterm needs, long-term needs. They're all still there and going to be the same. It would be very foolish for the city to downsize the wastewater treatment plant to plan for less people than it would be for us to continue with the plant as it is, replacing equipment that was already designed for certain flows and loadings to continue to handle those said flows and loadings moving on into the future. It would just be a very bad decision, I think, to go backwards. We still have to replace the UV system. We still have to replace our pumps. We have HVAC things. We have computer controls and things that are going to have to happen regardless of DNR telling us you got to redo your facilities plan because your mass flow loadings are wrong because you're showing the city growing too big and it's not going to be that big.
So what is the possible action that's envisioned here on this agenda item?
That was my question. Thank you.
Well, it was possible action. We wanted to bring it forward for discussion so that you're aware of where we're sitting right now, because this could potentially delay the UV project for an entire full year from now when we were getting ready to do it this winter. If we don't get some answers from the DNR soon, that project's going to have to be put on the shelf and we're going to have to do some other stuff instead. The mayor has reached out to her contacts with the DNR and we're waiting for a response back. It sounded like that the staff was going to have a meeting to discuss the DOA numbers and if there's anything that they can do about it, but I haven't heard anything back on that. So.
Well, it would seem to me that if there is any consideration for the DNR to require a completely new resubmittal of the facilities plan based upon this very tenuous basis, especially in light of everything that is going to put into question and possible delay, would be very adverse to our interests. And you mentioned that it was possible that the city attorney would have been here, would have been able to make a recommendation. But it would seem to me that the worst thing we can do is to roll over and play dead in light of what is a very problematic action by the DNR on a very flimsy basis. And if you're looking for a response from our committee, as one individual member, my suggestion would be to contest the status of this ruling and have the original improvement plan approved and then deal with it as has happened in the past as new figures relating to population are known. Otherwise, you are always going to be in jeopardy of having extensive planning rejected because something comes in after the fact.
Mhm.
So that's my input. If the possible action is just input from this committee, my suggestion would be to pursue this through our city attorney on the faulty basis on which we feel there was a rejection of the extensive effort put into the original project improvement plan.
I like that. To follow up with the city attorney and have him provide a letter of opinion to reject the DNR's refusal to accept our plan. Meanwhile, if that doesn't work and they have us redo the facilities plan, we'll need to get a revised number from Applied Technologies to do that work. Although a lot of it's already been done, and Katie can talk on this, it's not something I'm familiar with in the time and effort that goes into redoing it now.
Yeah, so the statement in Brett Schmidt, who is the DNR reviewer, is our recommendation is that you re-examine the calculation of flows and loads over the 20-year planning period and revise the proposed facilities plan as necessary. The population projections are pretty foundational. The flows and loadings are foundational to the plan. What he's really requesting is that we redo the plan and go through each item that we do and revise as necessary, which would be a significant amount of effort that I would prefer not to redo if not necessary. I guess one just minor correction is that the other interesting part of this is that the DNR has not actually rejected the plan. There's been no formal response, no in a letter. It's just been email correspondence with the reviewer.
Reason to contest it at a point in time before that happens.
Agreed.
Want a formal motion from our committee? Or is this simply informational and the city already has a plan of response in place? It sounds like you may.
Yes, I don't think it would hurt for the commission if they choose to make a recommendation to have the city attorney respond.
Okay.
Sometimes their DNR needs an action by the commission in order for an act to be official, but I don't, again, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know.
Want a motion?
Please.
Okay, I would make a motion that, the committee finds the current status of the DNR position on our previously submitted improvement plan, to be, unacceptable, and that we recommend our city attorney to contest this based on the
Timing of submittal.
based upon the original plan being accurate and sufficient at the time of submission.
Must hate to ask you to repeat that.
Probably couldn't write that fast. I don't blame you, but in any event, in the ballpark would be fine.
So the committee finds that the DNR position of our previously approved plan
Previously submitted
It was approved too.
improvement plan is in error.
I said unacceptable. You want to say an error?
Unacceptable is fine.
and direct the city attorney
Yes.
to do what?
To pursue reasonable reconsideration of the sufficiency of that plan.
Okay. You have support?
Yes. Support.
Any questions? Does that work for you, Katie?
Yes, hopefully it's, we are pursuing other, I guess, avenues with the DNR as well, just because we have a lot of projects that this is affecting. So I'll keep Pete up to date on what we learn. Yeah, a lot of other consultants were caught in this as well, so you're not the only ones.
Questioning other people's population projections. They're questioning other people's populations?
Statewide, the Department of Administration shows our population decreasing. And they think, have further broke it out by county, by city, town, village.
That's all because the state kind of messed with us with the bridge. Now they're gonna have Highway 16 take 5 years, and they're gonna do Main Street's gonna take 10 years, so we'll be dead by then.
Oh, sorry. We've also been talking to the DOA, their demographers. It's been interesting if you're interested in that sort of thing. And I'll say they're very confident on the county level for their population projections. What they will say is that they're not as confident on what they call a minor civil division. So like the city of Watertown. So they're very confident in their Dodge County and their Jefferson County. But then how that they apply those population projections to the city is less certain.
Johnson Creek's
So if you were to contest, they wouldn't take it personally. As they've said, people in individual MCDs have more knowledge about what's happening in your individual municipalities than the DOA does. So
Okay. Motion with support. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you both. Okay, I'm gonna go back to item A. Review and take possible action. Approve the 2024 municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 permit annual report submittal to Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources.
And Maureen, I'll turn this one over to you. I'll give you a control on the screen.
All right,
Are you logged into Zoom on that computer?
I am.
Okay. You were driving me crazy, you two Marines.
Oh, no, seriously?
It's okay. It was a short ride.
It, yeah, it's technology. I don't know. So, we want to give you a review, a brief review of the 2024 MS4 permit annual report. The idea is that there should be a resolution in your packet, and if you like this, that'll go next week to Common Council. And if they're happy, then we'll be able to submit this by the due date on March 31st. So, all right, so today's discussion is all about the MS4 report. So there are a number of measures that are included in the excuse me, the MS4 permit. This is not just statewide, these are nationwide MS4 permit requirements. So it's the outreach and education program, public involvement, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site pollutant control, post-construction stormwater management, and pollution prevention. The MS4 map is also something that most MS4 permits require, as well as the TMDL requirements if you're in a TMDL area. And of course, we're in the Rock River TMDL area. So, and just as a reminder, the way the city handles stormwater, there's basically three components to our stormwater program. We're dealing with flood control, we deal with pollutant control, and we deal with maintenance. And maintenance is to make sure that our flood control and pollutant control systems are working. The MS4 permit is pretty much all focused on pollutant control. So I'm not going to talk flooding. There's a bit of maintenance in there, but the MS4 permit is all about pollutants. So we do a number of things. We're required to do an outreach and education program. So the big thing we do is participate with the Rock River Stormwater Group. Each year they provide a big chunk of our report. So the Rock River Stormwater Group covers about 14 communities at this point, stemming from the city of Waupun all the way up on the north end and all the way down towards Beloit and Janesville, and now including Monroe and some towns down there, and a lot of us up and down the river. We work together to maximize our dollars to meet the outreach and education requirements through newsletters, social media, websites, a number of different brochures and other marketing pieces that are developed by the group that works for the Rock River Stormwater Group. That group also attends different events in all those different communities throughout the year. So ones they frequent here in Watertown include the Lights and Sirens event in the summer, as well as the Boo Bash this past fall, which was pretty successful from the Stormwater Group's end, and then farmers markets too. So if you hit any of those events, you might see a table with some Rock River Stormwater Group folks there. One thing I wanted to note is our pet waste dispensers that were pretty popular last year. We'll be doing that again this year. We just put these there for free for people to pick up at the clerk's office, and we heard they were popular, and the other communities heard that too. So it works, so we're going to do it again. Public involvement is the next section. So we had our third rain barrel workshop. We've been doing one each year, and we have another one scheduled this year in April. We take about 30 people, about 28 to 30 people sign up for it, and it's been filled a couple weeks before the event in the past few years. We actually have 3 people signed up for the event this year, and it hasn't been advertised yet. So that event is held with the Rock River Coalition. They lead the event, they coordinate the event, they do the registration and such. They reach out to WISPAC, who donates the barrels. And then the Rock River Coalition gets the kit that you use to kind of drill into the barrel and put the spigots on and everything, and convert an old barrel into a rain barrel. So that's going to happen again this year. We also have citizen stream monitoring training that, again, the Rock River Coalition, who's been a good partner for us, is going to hold this year in May. They did 2 events actually last year here in Watertown. And then we do have the stream bank cleanup that happens every September, and that goes back to the Rock River Stormwater Group, who's running that one for us. We move on to illicit discharge detection and elimination. So the idea is we have 553 storm sewer outfalls right now that drain our storm sewer system to the Rock River, creeks, wetlands, and other natural water bodies. We need to go out and inspect those. So we're required to look at almost 50 of them every year. And we're looking for pollution coming out of the storm outfall going to the rivers and such. So we go out there and we look a couple days after the last rain event. If there's something flowing through the storm sewer, we take a sample of that. And then we've got a field kit that we use out in the field, and we test a number of different parameters. Luckily, nothing was a hit this past year. So yay, that's 2 years in a row that we didn't have any hits. We did get a number of complaints last year about basically groundwater and sump pumps. And the reason we lump that in with illicit discharge, because it's another input going into our storm sewer system that we have to kind of monitor, and we have to explain to DNR why there's water coming out of our storm sewer system when it's not actually raining out. So it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just a tracking thing that we need to make sure we can explain it. And last year, if you remember, it rained from pretty much April through about July, almost every other day. So that's why we had so much groundwater, and that's why we had a lot of complaints. Another one, excuse me, we spend a lot of time on is our erosion control inspections. So in your report, you might have noticed that DNR requires the number of inspections, the number of sites that we're inspecting that are over an acre. So that's the stuff that they're interested in, but they're also telling us that we need to implement our ordinance. Our ordinance requires an erosion control permit at 3,000 square feet. And it also requires post-construction stormwater management at a half acre of new impervious. So we'll have higher numbers in what we actually did than what's in the report. So overall, we had 76 erosion control inspections last year, but the number in your report is lower because we did them for sites that were smaller than an acre. We do those erosion control inspections monthly. And if there are problems on the site, then we go out there weekly until those problems are resolved. And that's all prescribed by the permit. If the site is inactive, like during winter, or if there's a shutdown and they're going from, I don't know, if they're shut down for a few months, then we can call it an inactive site as long as everything's buttoned up and just go out there every other month. One thing that we're trying to do, our strategy here, is to meet with the project manager on site at the beginning of the construction and try just to get on the same page with them. What are we looking at on your site? What do we want you to look at on your site? So we make sure everything is in compliance throughout the construction period. So we don't have problems come up, halfway through the site and they're like, oh, I didn't know that was supposed to be done that way. We try to avoid that through communication. So after construction, now we have our post-construction stormwater management. So this is what we're talking about, our stormwater BMPs that are in the ground for ever and ever. We had a few new ones this past year, including a large biofilter at the YMCA, which is under construction. It should be finished up this spring. We have 2 wet ponds over at the Rock River Ridge subdivision. One of them is just about done. The other one, we're waiting for as-built on it right now. The other one still has some stabilization and some construction, but it's under construction. We had 3 new biofilters at the fire station site. Those are under stabilization methods right now and will be planted in early May. We had the Yardway site biofilter that went funded in part with a DNR grant. And then we had 2 new biofilters north of Boomer Street. Those are pretty significant and size-wise, and they are in. We're waiting to see this year as to whether any plants need to be replaced. Those plants will be replaced by the DOT contractor, and there are some that are not going to come back, so they'll take care of that. In addition to that, we also had 19 erosion control and stormwater permits issued. We had 13 different sites that we did plan reviews on. Some of those carried over to this year. Some of those were issued. We're at different stages of reviewing sites and all that. And a lot of those sites that have plan reviews and revisions, just so you know, there's back and forth. So there's the initial submittal comes in, we review it, there may be some questions, they don't necessarily meet our ordinance. We send those questions and comments back to the site engineer and the developer. And then when they send things back to us, we review it again. And ideally, we're landing on a permit that can be issued at that point, but there is back and forth with those. We did have 34 BMPs or best management practices. They were inspected in 2024. Those include the city-owned ones as well as a number of private ones. Of that, we had 7 maintenance letters sent out and a number of work orders that were created for city crews to take care of. Moving on to pollution prevention, I've got some great data for you. These are numbers that came from your report. So we have actually 232 lane miles that were swept in 2024. That 120 in the report is, I don't know, I tried to correct it and it didn't take it, whatever. But actually I should note that that report that you see is a spit out from the DNR website. So it's all an online entry. So I'll go in there again and try and get it to save. We had 450 yards of sediment and debris collected from the street sweeper and catch basin cleaning. For leaves, we had 166 bags on the side of the streets, as well as 3,300 plus yards of leaves collected loose curbside. That's in addition to all the leaves that people are taking to the yard waste site also. We also had 1,635 tons of salt, 3,719 gallons of brine applied to streets during the winter too. And the brine, mind you, is 77% water, 23% salt mixture, which means that we're actually using less salt when the brine goes down. So that's why we keep reviewing that program and seeing if there's some improvements we can make there or opportunities to gauge the materials we're using to treat streets during winter. The MS4 map requirement is a little different this year from DNR. We just have to submit a map for areas that changed. So the only thing we really had to do was to zoom in on the northern part of the city that was annexed in last fall. Because any of those streets that had storm sewer or swales along there, that's part of our new storm sewer system now too. So that was the only map that should have been in your packet. A quick summary is that we started working with Jefferson County in the fall, and it's been pretty darn good. Our contact at the county has been able to add features to GIS, which has made it much easier for us to track things, for us to do project planning. A lot of different features on how you use GIS, how to query things, how to export information, how to select a project area, and then have all the existing storm features pop up. So then we can plan how to revise that area and see what needs to be adjusted there. It's been a good change. Our TMDL and water quality trading programs have been moving along steadily. The past few years, I've been reporting to you that we were in development for water quality trading. Well, this year we finally got the conditional approval letter from DNR for our entire waterways program. And we also got the first practice completed and installed and approved by DNR. So now that we have that first one in, the next permit that comes out will include in writing our first practice and any other practices that we have done by the time the permit comes out. That is a 10-year agreement that was signed, and we have a good amount of phosphorus and total spended solids that we're able to control through that first practice. So we're looking forward to the next practices. We also had those new stormwater BMPs that I mentioned earlier, as well as some stream bank stabilization projects. So that all goes towards meeting our TMDL too. And the last thing I wanted to share with you regarding MS4 right now is what we're expecting this year. So our permit has expired and we're waiting for the new permit to be reissued. A few of the highlights that I have heard about, excuse me, is we're going to have to look at our impaired waterways and really develop a plan for how we're going to help those impaired waterways improve. There are 3 impaired waterways by DNR and EPA standards here in the city. That's the Rock River, Silver Creek, and then also Riverside Park Creek. So all those have too much phosphorus, and that's impacting the quality of the water there. Other changes we expect are updates to the written MS4 permit programs. So we'll have to go through those, revise them, and resubmit those accordingly. The illicit discharge program analysis, implementation of the program, and the protocols we follow will probably need to be more detailed and submitted. There's going to be a greater focus on maintenance of private and public BMPs in the next MS4 permit. That is not surprising at all based on what we're hearing at conferences and anecdotally as we work with private property owners, our own city-owned BMPs, they need maintenance so that they can function. Enhanced SWIPs, the stormwater pollution prevention plans that we have written up for 5 of our sites, of our city sites where we have city operations going on. Those will have to be improved also per new requirements coming in the next permit. There will be different salt use reporting and calibration of salt equipment, again, required in the permit next. The other thing is the TMDL reductions. This next permit, we expect to see actual reduction goals. So they're going to ask us to say, all right, we've accomplished X. In order to get to Y, they want us to reduce another 20% of TSS and 10% of the phosphorus. That's the difference between X and Y. And we don't know what other conditions will be in the next permit, but I'm sure I'll share that with you when we get that permit.
Are those goals for next year or for the 20% and that 10%?
For the next 5 years.
Next 5.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, so I guess that's a great lead in. Are there any other questions? That's everything I had for you at this point.
Gentlemen?
Well done.
On the report, which we got the extensive, it's like whole volume of it was. Is that something that we do in-house? Or is that something that we have consultants to do?
No, we do that in-house. I will say there are some sections of the report that come from the Rock River Stormwater Group or from, I believe, the Rock River Coalition and the Wisconsin Saltways groups. So the Rock River Coalition, Wisconsin Saltways, both are kind of subgroups that participate in and work with the Rock River Stormwater Group. So all that comes together. Otherwise, I think everything else we did in-house, didn't we?
Yeah, the programs were all drafted and reviewed in-house. We perform all of our stormwater reviews in-house, or at least we have in the past couple of years, which is a big savings to our developers, having those in-house versus consulting. So it's an effort that we take on internally.
Obviously, that was a very extensive effort, and I thought that that was very impressive, the work that has gone into this. And apparently this is something that we end up doing every 5 years and perhaps building upon past reports, but it was something that I thought was a very commendable effort.
Maureen, curious. There was one, slide. Clausen was in the background and they had where they're building out, where Walensky's building out there. They had a ramp built on the curb with just gravel and dirt. There it is. No, that's, yeah. What do you do with that? Is that complaint driven or?
No, that actually is something we discover when we do our monthly erosion control inspections. So then I reach out to either the contractor or the developer, whichever one is my contact. And usually I just drop an email and say, hey, this is what we found on site. Can you please take care of it? Technically, they're supposed to do it within 24 hours of notification. That doesn't happen. But, you know, if they can do it within a few days, that's great. And I explained to them that by the MS4 permit, I have to go out there again next week and inspect again. I'll be contacting you again next week. Usually the idea of hearing from me that often is enough to make them go and fix things on site. If there's a lot of things that are a little out of whack, then at that point, I'll just send them a copy of my erosion control inspection form. DNR has an inspection form that we just adopt and we just use that. So it kind of makes it easier because that's what the project manager is using on their own construction site too, so they're familiar with the form. And then we save that. We've got that uploaded into our system. We've got a copy of all those inspection reports, of any correspondence with the contractors, developers, all of our plan review comments I mentioned. Someday DNR is going to come in and audit us and they're going to want to see a lot of that. So we do have all that stored in our system for each site for each year.
How big is your staff that's doing all this work?
I think I'll let Andrew answer that.
Marine really takes this on staff of one at this point. I mean, we review it together. We have interns that do a lot of the work for us in the summer, some of the seasonal work, the inspection work, but Marine really between December and this time of the year is pulling different pieces of the report together. As you saw, there's quite a few sections and a lot of material to draft and review and gather. So it's quite a big lift. Parks, streets, yeah, salt usage, leaf collection.
Hey, gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
This is our possible action is to recommend the submission of this 5-year plan or report.
Yeah, I think it's to approve the 2024 municipal separate storm sewer system permit annual report to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources.
To approve it and authorize its submission. Okay, I'll make a motion then that we approve the 2024 annual report and that we recommend its submission to the state.
I'll second that. Then we'll see it next Tuesday night.
Yes. The resolution next Tuesday night. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Okay, let's go back to item E. Review and take possible action, award contract number 8-25, Western Avenue Water Main Relay to Forest Landscaping and Construction, Inc. for $187,580.
All right, so the engineering division opened bids for this project on March 5th. We received 2 bids. And we're recommending the base bids be awarded to Forest Landscaping and Construction, Inc. The scope of this one includes replacing the raw water line beginning at the intersection of Western Avenue and Third Street. This is where the Western Avenue reconstruction project ends and the state's participation ends. That project is reconstructing the remainder of the raw water line to the central treatment plant. So this project picks it up where that project ends and takes it to well 4, about a block and a half to the east. Forest Landscaping and Construction, Inc. is the subcontractor doing the underground work on the state's portion of Western Avenue and First Street. So it makes a lot of sense from a mobilization standpoint. They're right there doing the work anyways. So it should be pretty seamless having them do the work. This contract also includes a spot sanitary sewer repair. And the accounts are listed for the funding. This is within the 2025 budget allocation.
Gentlemen,
Motion to approve contract 8-25. Base bid A to Forest Landscaping and Construction, Inc. for $187,580.
okay, I'll support that. Any comments or questions?
Do you have any estimates on what the cost will be for the acquisitions of the easements and other properties that will be part of this?
There shouldn't be any acquisition needed for this project. The Western and First, we didn't have acquisition either. On the next item, I don't know if we have numbers yet, but we can get into that too. We should be in the clear on this project though for acquisition.
Other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item F, convene into closed session per, I can't tell you what that symbol is, 19.85 subparagraph 1, paragraph E, to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This is about the Hart Street drainage improvements. Motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Their support?
Second.
You're listening. All right, we'll do this by roll call. Wetzel,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Ford, aye. Bartz.
Aye.
Okay, we are in closed session.